2020, we are in a new decade. And of course, we're still African American. And we got a rich history of where we are now as it relates to where we used to be 100 years ago, 10 years ago, really 5 years. Nonetheless, all the progress has not been made. We've still got a ways to go. And the reason I got this distinguished gentleman with me today is because we want to talk about somebody who gave his life to make things better for the African American and then the country as a whole. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But I just don't want to talk about Dr. King because he did what he did, and we are reaping the benefits of it. I want my guest today, who's very experienced and very knowledgeable, and is old enough, because older than I am, but he's old enough to have experienced some of the things that relate to the impact of Dr. King, the effects of what he did, and where we try to need to go. And that distinguished gentleman is none other than Mr. Herbert Dennard. How you doing, man?
Good to see you always.
Yeah, good to see you. So, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know a lot of people know you. You're very popular. You've done a lot of things in the community. But I think it would be beneficial for the community to let the people kind of know your history, because you were involved early on with the movement, and I'm not sure whether that was during or after the time of Dr. King, but I'm sure one way or the other he influenced you in your life. So talk about it.
He definitely influenced me in so many ways. I left Macon in 1953. Went to live with my father. Mother and father divorced, and I went to live with my father in Buffalo. And when I finished high school, my dad told me to go to work. And I wanted to take a vacation. We had this agreement, and I joined the Marine Corps.
Which you thought was a vacation.
and I really didn't know. I was more involved, saw the uniform and saw the posters and all that. I was 18 years of age. And I joined and when I was in basic training, President John F. Kennedy was killed. And when I, later on in '68, I was out of the service then. I went to Vietnam, but I was out of the service then, and Dr. Martin Luther King was killed. It was like you and everyone else. It was like a family member, somebody that you've been reading about, been watching on television, and he had a vision for so many things, and I listened to him so often on television, and it influenced me. Jesse Williams, Burt Bivens, J.W. Connor, and I decided that we wanted to join the YMCA. I wanted to play basketball, and it was raining, and we decided to go to the YMCA. I had a card that I could use from the military, and they wouldn't let us in. And so we pulled some more people together, and we was arrested. And when we was fighting to get in, and at that same time, April 4th, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Wow.
We was going through a lot of things, but then when Dr. King was assassinated, we decided that we had waited long enough, and we all went down to the YMCA, and they arrested all of us. It was 10 of us, all those young people just back from the military and been to Vietnam or been to Germany serving this country, and they arrested us all. I remember talking to P.A. MacArthur. He was the executive director of the YMCA. When I showed him my card, he said that this YMCA is for white folks only. Now, you could imagine somebody that had been to Vietnam and in infantry, not just not just there, but it really hurt. But they did not want any African Americans, black folks, and Negroes, as we was called then. They didn't want us in there. And I decided later, Dr. King taught love. He's such a powerful person. All of the negativity and the getting thrown rocks at, getting jumped on by people, beat up and all that kind of stuff. He still kept the same positive outlook that things were gonna get better. He was something else.
Yeah, he absolutely was. And the thing, Herbert, and I want you to address this because I think it's a real problem in our community, and I think it's appropriate to talk about it now, is the fact that a lot of our young people, millennials, and people who did not have those experiences don't realize the value, man. I think they kind of take it for granted, and they don't seem, and this is not just because of them, it's because of some of our generation. Some of us who benefited from the movement and did not reach back. But just talk about why you think the young people ought to try to continue the dream and the legacy.
We all got to do something. We got to do something to make the place better for others and for ourselves. And if we sit on the sideline, nothing happens. There's a real dislike from white people against black people. If you move in their neighborhoods, they move out. If you join their clubs, they go to another club. If you go to their schools, they move out. A lot of them really don't like you. And that's not all of them.
Some of them do.
Because if it wasn't for some of them, Barack Obama would have never been elected president. He couldn't have been elected president just by himself. But there's a real dislike, a strong dislike by a lot of people. In other words, if Trump has done all of the things that he has done, and he's still hanging around 45%, and no matter what he does, they don't like him. They like him, they love him. And sometimes I think we are on different planets. If I'm talking to some white people, most white people, they love him. They love what he's doing. And I think, I just think that we could do so much. We could vote, we could be involved, we could do so many things. But they really, I don't get this point. A lot of them really don't like you. I don't care how much you pretend and be around them. They don't want you in their neighborhoods. When some people got out of the military after World War II, white people were getting VA loans, FHA loans. Black people couldn't get them. The federal government would not allow black folks to get loans after World War II. They had the VA loans and the FHA loans for white people, not for black people.
Wow.
So I'd say they don't like them.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think you qualified it, and I agree that it's not everybody.
No, it's not everybody.
Because we could not have made it this far without some.
I had, my friend Robert Steele, Bob Steele.
Yeah.
And Linda Mabry.
Right.
They went to battle.
And they were white.
And they was white.
Yeah.
So it's not everybody.
Yeah.
But I think a large percentage of them don't like us.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand, and I think there are some statistics that support, what you were saying. Okay, let's move to another element of this discussion. Specifically, you kind of mentioned it, but there's a lot that everybody can do, quietly and on their own to make this a better place and a better community. You know, one of the things that I contend, a lot of people argue with me, but there's an old saying that says, if it is to be, it's up to me. You know, Jack Ellis the former mayor, used to use an expression when he was talking about what can be done from an inward perspective within our community that everybody can be a part of. And his favorite expression said, you got to make wise use of the ballot and the vote. So address your feelings as it relates to the kind of impact.
We must vote. When Barack Obama ran for president, we voted. When Hillary ran, we didn't. I mean, you and I voted, but it was a big drop off. If the same people had voted, Trump would not be president. But a lot of us, no matter what Hillary said, no matter the commercials, no matter what, a lot of people stayed home. And part of the reason was the Russians, Trump's campaign, they focused on a negative campaign, but they was putting stuff on the internet that we thought it was coming from black people. How Hillary's no good, Trump is no good, you wasting your vote both either way. A lot of that was put on, and they targeted African Americans, and a lot of people didn't vote. They just didn't get into it. Yeah. That they ran such a negative campaign. You even now, you would think Hillary was a devil, reincarnated, the way they talk about Hillary. Hillary, I mean, they're trying to do the same with Joe Biden now. But we got to encourage, we need to not just vote ourselves. We must take somebody with us. We need to get some of the young millennials, some of the younger people, and some of the old people. We just can't vote. He's trying to undo the president now. He's trying to undo all of the things that Barack Obama has done, and we can't afford it. And he's supporting putting people on the Supreme Court, some in the district courts and federal courts, that the Bar Association say they're disqualified. They are unqualified. They don't have some of them never even practiced law. They practiced law, but they hadn't practiced before judges and hadn't been to court hardly. One of them I remember. But either way, the President Trump still pushes them, and they are there. And the only way we can change that, we must vote, and must vote not only for the president, but make sure that we try to change the look of the Senate and have more Democrats there.
Yeah. But, that not only applies nationally, how about locally? A lot of times people like to say, what's wrong with the community? But one of my favorite people say that, we shouldn't complain when we sit idly by and don't vote and let things happen to us. And of course, you and I are both in business. We're going to talk about the dollar in a minute. Mm-hmm. But so I think that's particular. And the thing that bothers me, everybody has the right to feel how they want to feel or vote how they want to vote. But as it relates to African Americans, because of all of the blood that was shed and the time that was spent, to try to put us in a position where we could accomplish some things, not everything, then, I just think it's robbery for anybody, young, old, or indifferent, not to be involved in the process, and particularly as it relates to African Americans, to not understand, where we are and what needs to be done in order for our community to grow. And a lot of it, is on us, because we can do more. I'm not disagreeing with what you said, but, I still think that we need to emphasize that we as a people, we don't need to be what, Dr. King called 10-day people or something like that. We don't need to be like that. We don't need to forget.
I agree totally, but to tell you how bad it is, The guy that because of the killings in the black community, he's a football player, was a football player. He got on his knees and he kneeled, and instead of when the national anthem was played, and people all over, black football players and some white, would kneel, because of the killings in the black community. Now you would think this guy really he's committed and he's really a fantastic guy. He didn't vote. I mean, he said basically that there was no difference between the two. That's what he said at the time. So if you got a guy like Kaepernick, if he don't vote, he's an intelligent guy. Been to college, he finished college, and he didn't vote. He kneeled, but he didn't vote. That mentality was out there. So much propaganda, so much things on Facebook that was not true, was put out so much. A leading man and I still respect what he was doing, but he did not vote. So we must vote no matter what.
Yeah.
The killings in the community, we talked about Martin Luther King. Could you imagine you serving the military, somebody else serving the military, and you get out and you try to get a VA loan and you can't get one? Not because of some racist people in the community, because the government, the U.S. government, wouldn't give the loans. So we have a lot of work to do, and right now there's things. When they built Macon Homes, and piled all the black people in that one area, and they didn't, in Tyndall Heights, the same thing. Look at the places that they placed, because there wasn't a lot of places to live, and so a lot of people through public housing lived there, and they, they wasn't the best public housing.
Yeah.
And the history of it.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I lived in both of them.
most people lived in here.
Macon Home and into the Heights.
Now, let me just mention something else. When the highways, interstate highways, when they came through here, they decided that the neighborhoods that they would go through was black neighborhoods. Pleasant Hill, that's the bulk of it, went right through there, cut it in half. Now, the thing about it, I was reading a book the other day, every city where they cut through the black community. When they have dumps in the city, where they put garbage at, the people that live close to all of those dumps, not some of those dumps, was black people. The government plan. So if you have people elected and they are aware, because some, and I don't do this often, but some black people, most of them are pretty good, but there are some black people that do not read, do not feel a part of history, and they don't even vote the right way. They are there, they're in a high position, but some of them don't vote the right way. Most of them vote the right way, but there's one or two right now. And I'm not gonna call their names.
Don't do that.
But I'm just saying, right now they vote the wrong way.
Right.
They don't read. And so we must be educated, and we must vote in the community, and we must kind of do a little research on something.
And we need to examine who and research who we vote for to make sure that they can contribute positively to the community.
When they put, you think about it, when they put all of the things in the black community, they put all of the dumps, every time they have something bad, that's where our houses are located. You think they'll put a dump out there in North Macon? I mean, they're not only just in Macon, but you can go to San Francisco, you can go to New York, all of the places where they put the dumps at, that's where they are.
Right.
I mean, so we still, it's not over.
Yeah.
It's not over.
Yeah.
We still must fight on, push on. And Dr. King, like I say, he's been my inspiration forever. Ever since I was a young person, I used to watch my dad when he first started the Montgomery movement. I was watching him when my dad, he was watching the TV, and I would watch right with him. So through that, you know, we was educated. But now they got so many channels and everything else. A person, if he chose not, he wouldn't even have to watch the news.
I know.
And some of them don't watch the news.
I know, and that's not good.
That's not good.
That's not good at all, because we need to be. And then you'd be surprised at the number of people who tell me, well, I don't watch the news, but you know, I think that if you live in America and if you are a citizen, then you ought to be responsible and knowledgeable, particularly as it relates to voting, not only locally but statewide and nationally, because voting, one man, one vote, everybody has the right to vote. But then if in fact we're concerned about the development of our community and our neighborhoods and the educational system and our children, then we need to be involved in who's in a position, you know, to influence those things. You've been in business,
Yes.
you know, for quite some time. You know, we share the publishing business.
Yes. I learned from you.
Yeah, well, thank you for those kind words. But, you know, for about 40 years now, Herbert, this is a call to action.
A call
To action.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Haversham, and I got so excited about my interviewee until I didn't even, you know, introduce myself. But this is a call to action, and most of you know what you are watching, and I want to quickly inform you. And then the other thing I want to say quickly is I know that you do a good job on social media in trying to keep the community informed on what's going on not only in the religious community, but the social, economic, you know, and entertainment community. So I appreciate that, because, you know, education is important, the media is important, and information is important. So you do a good job of it. A lot of things I've learned on social media, I learned from you. And then, so I want to encourage you to, you know, we've got a YouTube channel. You can see not only this show, but any show that we do on a call to action on Alex Habersham YouTube. I also want to encourage you, since we're talking about business, to subscribe to our mailing list, because we try, like Herbert, we try to disseminate information that's going to educate the community. But the most important thing we want to talk about now is how economics, you know, one thing, Herbert, and I'm sure you know this because you've been in business, but you know, African American consumerism and spending is off the chain in our community, you know, and I think that's the bucks part of it. So talk about how we can kind of help to uplift, not only as it relates to black business, but how we can kind of be conscientious about how we spend our money.
We should, all of us should, when possible, spend money locally, because that's where it really helps. If you're spending money always away from your community, white or black, it's bad. But it's especially bad when you don't spend money and support black businesses. When I try to buy things and see things, I try to go to some places that I know will benefit. You know, and when I buy real estate, I try to use real estate agents. When I buy, I go deep. When I buy a car, I buy a car from a dealer that has a black salesman. See, I remember when they didn't have any black salesmen. They didn't have any black salesmen. They didn't have any black furniture salesmen. They didn't have any black car salesmen. Matter of fact, only thing you could do when you went in the store,
Milkman, bread man.
they didn't have none of that. I mean, when you went into a store and you bought something, you couldn't try it on. You know, if you went into places here, I mean,
It benefit,
it's better fit.
Yeah.
You could not try it on. And I don't know if anybody seen the movie with the Green Book. It was
Oh, your dream book.
but you had to pick it out and buy it, and you couldn't try it on because people they didn't want to put something on. So it's good to support black businesses.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good to support local businesses.
Yeah, and you can find the black ones of course, on the black pages.
In Black Pages,
Yeah.
that's a wonderful
Yeah.
place. You need to
And I
know
don't want to be
who,
too personal, but
you need to know who is there. And when I see, I got the situation. When I bought a car, not only would I buy a car from a black salesman, but I buy a car from a white dealership that supported the black community.
yeah,
You know, Riverside Ford, they supported black businesses and they hired black salesmen. And there was other places. And even today, from a history of it, I support those who support me.
right.
If a business
And the community.
and the community, they're not doing that. I don't, you know. But back in the real day, when you went around town, back in the real day, all of the merchants down now on Mulberry and Broadway, they had black businesses all around there.
Well, I'm happy to report there are 32 African American businesses downtown now. You know, and I've worked on an initiative to bring more of them downtown, so that's important. Well, believe it or not, Doc, now our time is up, but I want to take a minute to thank you, you know, for all your involvement in the community throughout the years, and you know, you've done it earnestly, and you've done it in an impactful manner, and you were involved to the extent early on of getting arrested. And I advise the community, young people, old people, get involved in the community. We can make it better. I mean, though we got some forces we're dealing with, but there are a lot of activities, a lot of actions that we as a community could take. And during the time of Dr. King's birthday, I think one way to tell him this happy birthday is to make a commitment to continue the legacy. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. Having interviewed my good friend, I've called it Dennard, Mr. Herbert Dennard, and he's been, like I said, he's been involved in the community. We appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Our story begins more than 60 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop where our founder discovered a retired teacher living, no home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today, we empower people to choose how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP Georgia, creating real possibilities.